Okay, so good morning, everybody. Well, today I plan to start a capsule lecture for another chapter, which is about analysis of market for consumers. In this case, we basically aim to understand the target customers' need, what they want. We always want to be better than our competitors. So we need to understand how well we can satisfy the customers' need and wants. Marketers must have a thorough understanding of how consumers think, feel, and what is that one thing that actually makes them buy a particular product. Consumer behavior, that way, is the study of how individuals or groups or organizations select, buy, or even use the products or services, ideas, or experiences to satisfy what they actually want. So, consumers' buying behavior is hugely influenced by cultural, social, and personal factors. I think culture, subculture, and social class are particularly very important influence on the consumer buying behavior. A reason being, every consumer is influenced by what culture he is surrounded with. So, culture is nothing but a fundamental determinant of person's want and behavior. And two basic things like subculture or even the study of language or behavior rituals can give a lot of hints to the company to make their policies. So each culture consists of smaller subcultures that provide more specific identification and socialization for their members. Subcultures include nationalities, religion, racial groups, geographic regions. When subcultures grow large, companies often design policies which are very, very specific to these cultural factors. Well, we have social classes as well, wherein human beings in societies they exist in different social classes. So we have lower class, lower, and upper, and lower upper. So likewise, I think people from these levels certainly will have different need and want, and companies can identify these different segments and develop products for them. Social factors, on the other hand, they focus more on variables such as reference groups, family, social roles, and status that affect one's buying behavior. We have reference groups as well. Now, reference group is nothing but they are all the groups that have direct or indirect influence on their attitude. We have primary groups and secondary groups as well. Now, primary groups are those people who are like a family, our friends, a neighbor, and co-workers. And secondary groups are those like people who are there in the religious groups or in the professional or you can say not so close to individual consumer. Aspirational groups are those where person hopes to join. Dissociative groups are those where values or behavior in individual rejects. Often in society, we have opinion leaders as well who are nothing but individuals who offer informal advice or information about a specific product or product category. Then family, I think, is a very important parameter that plays a very big role in what we buy as a consumer. A lot of times we are influenced by what our family wants and what family needs are. So family of orientation consists of parents, a sibling, and they do influence what we eventually buy, be it a color of a car, be it the house or the locality where you want to buy the house. Further, another shift in the buying pattern, there is increase in the amount of, I think, disposable income that now people have, and that is another reason why companies are coming out with more options for the consumer. So when they see, like in India, they say that India is a huge potential market, and a lot of people are now more on spending, and they are more into buying new products. They are more open to buying now than they were maybe 40, 50 years back. Role and status, we each participate in many groups like family and clubs. A role consists of the activities a person is expected to perform. Each role in turn connotes a status. We have role and status that way that also influence what we ultimately buy. So, by and large, there are these personal factors as well. Personal factors are nothing but individuals' own decision, including with respect to age, stage in the life cycle. Like if you talk about the younger people will have different needs, and they will have actually have a different thought process of buying a product. When it comes to older people, well, the needs are very different, and they may have some other thought process while buying those products. Age and stage in the life cycle, I think psychological life cycle stages may matter. Adults experience certain passages or transformations as they go through life. Their behavior as they go through these passages, such as becoming parent, is not necessarily fixed but changes with the time. Then even occupation plays a big role in what we buy. A lot of people become very status conscious once they occupy a very good position in the company. For example, you normally see the CEO of a company or a vice president of a company having a very big car and maintaining a very big bungalow as compared to the people from the other occupations, or maybe people at the lower status. So marketers try to identify the occupational groups that have above average interest in their products and services, and even tailor products for certain occupational groups. Well, this may vary with respect to recession and due to the other economic factors as well. Personality is another very important parameter. If I recall the definition in organizational behavior, this was nothing but the sum total of ways in which people react and interact with each other in order to understand each other, or in order to satisfy the organizational objectives. So in marketing, I think every single person has got some personality, and as a consumer, this personality actually influences what we buy. So there are these brand personalities that have been identified as sincere, excitement, competence, sophistication, ruggedness, and these personality traits often we find in a lot of products that we ultimately buy. So, cross-cultural study exploring the general things of acre scale outside the US found that three of the five factors applied in Japan and Spain, but a peacefulness dimension replaced ruggedness both in Japan and in Spain. So I believe lifestyle is another parameter, which is nothing but the person's pattern of living in a world. Now, there are certain people who have very high lifestyle. They prefer to live in a big bungalow with, having very big car and having a very posh lifestyle. On the other hand, there are certain people who are very simple in their approach, and it doesn't really matter to them. Even if they become very successful people, they will still prefer to stay in the old house. So I think lifestyles are shaped partly by whether consumers are money constrained or time constrained. Consumers men are pro to multitasking, doing two or more things at the same time. They also pay others to perform tasks because time is more important to them than money. So I think by and large, these factors influence the consumers in the market, and every marketer should actually need to understand these different factors to make their policies according to these different scenarios. Then further, we also have these consumers who often choose and use brands with a brand personality that is consistent with their self-concept. That is how we view ourselves, although they match may instead be based on consumers' ideal self concept, that is how we would like to view ourselves, or even on others' self concept, that is how we think others look at us. So, both these scenarios help companies in understanding ultimately what people want in the market. So, there are a couple of theories that we have done in motivation in the class, and I will just want to give you a very brief snapshot of them. So, the three theories which we did in the class were first given by Freudian, that was very famous with respect to study of unconscious, conscious level of individual person. Then we also did Abraham Maslow's theory of need and the Herzberg, and they actually carry all different implications for the consumer analysis. So Freudian assumed that these psychological forces they actually shape people's behavior that are largely unconscious, and that a person cannot fully understand their motivations. So someone who examines specific brands will react not only to their stated capabilities but also to other less conscious cues such as shape, size, weight, color, or material, and that technique is called as laddering. Maslow's theory is based on the basic levels of need that people may be in. So they basically explain why people are driven by a particular need at a particular time. So the answer lies in that human needs are arranged in an hierarchy from most to least pressing. That is starting from physiological needs, safety need, social need, esteem need, and self-actualization need. Herzberg, on the other hand, focused on two-factor theory that was there to distinguish between the dissatisfiers from the satisfiers. Now, he said that, there are certain factors which might satisfy people, but that doesn't mean that it is going to motivate people. So the absence of dissatisfies is not enough to motivate a purchase. For example, if a shopkeeper is keeping his shop very clean, well, that's okay. We expect him to keep his shop clean. That may not be the motivating factor for me to buy a product from his shop. But my motivation to buy a product will be more dependent on my need, what I want, and what I ultimately demand. So Hertzberg had two implications. He said that sellers would do their best to avoid dissatisfiers. No doubt, as a company, I will actually track and trace every person who's dissatisfied from my company. Although these things will not sell a product, but they might easily unsell it. Second, the seller should identify the major satisfiers or motivators of purchase in the market and then supply them. There was another topic that we did that was on perception. Now, perception, if I just recall the definition from the book, that was nothing but the way in which we organize our sensory impressions to give meaning to our external environment. So, as for the marketing concept, it is nothing but the process by which we select, we organize, and we interpret information that we are watching, we are seeing, we are smelling, or we are hearing, and we try to give meaning to that. So it depends on not only on the physical stimuli, but also on the stimuli relationship to the surrounding environment. So in this case, consumers tend to have selective attention where they tend to see and hear what they want to see and what they want to hear. So attention is the allocation of processing capacity to some stimulus. And selective attention means marketers must work very hard to attract customers' notice because as a consumer, I'm not going to notice each and everything. But certainly, depending on what I want to hear, what I want to see, I only tend to see and hear that. So similarly, we have selective distortion as well, which is nothing but the tendency to interpret information in a way that fits our preconceptions. So consumers will often distort information to be consistent with prior brand and product beliefs and expectations. Selective retention is another concept which says that most of us don't remember much of information that we are exposed to. For example, if I've seen a lot of ads on TV, maybe in the last 1 week, I will not remember all. I might remember the ones which are very famous, but not all. So we are likely to remember the good points about the product we like and forget the good points about the competing products that we do not like. Selective retention again works to the advantage of strong brands, and it also explains why marketers need to use repetition to make sure that their message is not overlooked. So that's all that we did. We also did a bit, I didn't complete the whole point, but we did about a learning as well. So learning includes changes in our behavior arising from experience. So there is a drive, there is a cue that actually help us in learning a lot of things. So drive is a strong internal stimulus impelling action, and cues are minor stimuli that determine when, where, how a person responds. Discrimination, on the other hand, means we have learned to recognize differences that are there in the different products, and we can adjust our response according to that. So that was all in the class which I did, and we also discussed, I think, a concept of hedonic biases. So hedonic bias occurs when people have a general tendency to attribute success to themselves and failure to the external causes. So when they are very successful, they say that, hey, I did a lot of hard work, and that's the reason I'm successful. But the moment they start failing, they start complaining other people, maybe other fellow mates or the managers, that it is due to them that they failed. So that was all half part of the chapter which we did in the class, and we'll be back with the remaining part of the chapter very soon. Till then, thank you so much.